Good day. We are glad to greet you again on our channel. Today the fairy tale of Pinocchio is presented to your attention. Subscribe to the channel, put a like, enjoy listening.
Once upon a time in a small Italian village there lived an old carpenter named Geppetto. He was kind but poor, and he spent his days making wooden toys and furniture for the children of the town. Although his little workshop was filled with laughter and the smell of fresh pine, Geppetto often felt lonely. He had no family and dreamed of having a son to share his days with. One evening, Geppetto found a special piece of wood. It seemed almost alive, smooth and warm to the touch. This wood will make a fine puppet, he thought, so he began to carve. As his knife shaped the wood into a small boy, something magical began to happen. The puppet blinked its eyes, wiggled its legs, and gave a tiny laugh. Geppetto was amazed. The puppet was alive. He named the wooden boy Pinocchio, and from that moment his lonely house was full of joy. Geppetto loved Pinocchio as if he were his own son. He taught him how to walk, how to read, and how to be polite. But Pinocchio was curious and restless. He wanted to explore the world beyond the workshop. Geppetto tried to guide him, but Pinocchio often disobeyed. He was not bad, only naive and easily tempted. Geppetto wanted him to go to school, so he sold his only warm coat to buy Pinocchio a spelling book. That morning, Geppetto kissed him goodbye and said, "Be a good boy, study hard, and always tell the truth." But as soon as Pinocchio stepped into the busy streets, his attention wandered. Music, laughter, and bright posters surrounded him. A group of boys were shouting about a puppet show. Pinocchio's wooden heart beat faster. He had never seen a show before. Pinocchio forgot all about school and followed the crowd to the puppet theater. The stage was full of marionettes, puppets just like him. They danced, sang, and clapped their hands. When the puppet master saw Pinocchio, he stopped the show in surprise. The audience gasped at the sight of a puppet that could move on its own. The puppet master at first was angry, but soon his heart softened. He gave Pinocchio a few gold coins and told him to go home to his father. Pinocchio was overjoyed. Now he could help Geppetto buy food and a new coat. But on his way home, he met a sly fox and a sneaky cat. They asked him where he was going, and Pinocchio proudly showed them his gold coins. The fox smiled and whispered about a magical field where coins could grow into trees of gold. The idea of a tree covered in gold was too tempting for Pinocchio. He followed the fox and the cat into the dark forest. The path was long, and soon night fell. The fox and the cat led him deeper and deeper until the trees grew thick and shadows danced like ghosts. Finally, they told him to bury his coins and wait until morning. Believing their lies, Pinocchio did as they said. But when he woke up, the coins were gone. The fox and the cat had stolen everything. Sad and frightened, Pinocchio tried to find his way home, but he was lost. Then a blue light appeared in the distance. It was a kind and gentle fairy, the Blue Fairy, who watched over children and dreamers. The Blue Fairy comforted Pinocchio and asked him how he had lost his money. Pinocchio, ashamed of his mistake, decided to lie. He said that robbers had attacked him and stolen everything. But as he spoke, something strange happened. His wooden nose began to grow longer and longer. The fairy smiled kindly and told him that every time he lied, his nose would grow. Pinocchio cried and promised to be honest from then on. The fairy forgave him and helped him find the way back to Geppetto's home. Meanwhile, poor Geppetto had gone searching for his missing son. He wandered through towns and forests, asking everyone if they had seen a wooden boy. His love for Pinocchio was so strong that he built a small boat and sailed out to sea, hoping to find him. When Pinocchio returned home and found that Geppetto was gone, he was heartbroken. The blue fairy appeared again and told him the truth. Geppetto had sailed across the sea to look for him and might be in great danger. Pinocchio, filled with guilt and courage, decided to go after his father. He found a fisherman with a small boat and asked for help. The waves were high and the wind was cold, but Pinocchio did not care. He wanted only to find his father and make things right. A terrible storm came. The sea roared and crashed, and Pinocchio was thrown into the water. Being made of wood, he floated, but the boat sank beneath the waves. Pinocchio drifted alone on the vast ocean until he saw something huge rise from the deep, a giant whale. Before he could swim away, the whale opened its enormous mouth and swallowed him whole. Inside the dark belly of the whale, Pinocchio trembled. Then, to his amazement, he saw a faint light. It was Geppetto. The old man had been swallowed by the same whale days earlier and had survived by eating fish and keeping a small lantern lit. Father and son embraced with tears of joy. Pinocchio promised never to run away again. Together they planned an escape. Geppetto tied a rope to Pinocchio, who swam out through the whale's mouth when it opened to breathe. The sea carried them to the shore. Exhausted but alive, they rested on the sand, thanking the stars above. Pinocchio helped his father walk back to their village. From that day on, he worked hard to take care of Geppetto and to become a good and honest boy. He went to school every day, shared what little they had, and never complained. Sometimes he was tempted to lie or skip his lessons, but he remembered the blue fairy's warning and how much pain his foolishness had caused. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. Pinocchio began to understand the meaning of kindness, love, and responsibility. One morning, as he woke up early to fetch water, he felt different. His wooden limbs seemed lighter, his movements smoother. He looked into the mirror and gasped. His wooden face had turned into real skin. His hands were soft, and his heart beat like a drum inside his chest. The blue fairy appeared before him, smiling gently. She told him that because he had learned to be brave, truthful, and loving, he had earned the gift of becoming a real boy. Pinocchio ran to tell Geppetto, who wept with happiness. His greatest dream had come true. His little wooden puppet was now his real son. From that day forward, life in the small workshop changed. The laughter of a real boy filled the air. Pinocchio helped Geppetto with his work, learning how to carve toys and repair furniture. He no longer dreamed of running away or chasing easy riches. Instead, he found joy in simple things: a warm meal, a sunny morning, and the company of those he loved. People in the village admired how kind and polite Pinocchio had become. Children often came to visit and listen to Geppetto's stories. The old man's eyes shone with pride every time he looked at his son. Though the days were peaceful, Pinocchio never forgot the lessons he had learned. He remembered the fox and the cat and how greed had led him astray. He remembered how lies had made his nose grow and how honesty had saved him. Sometimes, when the wind blew through the trees, he could almost hear the blue fairy's voice whispering, "Be good, and the world will be kind to you." And so, Pinocchio grew into a wise and generous young man. He always helped others and told the truth, even when it was hard. He knew that real magic was not in fairy dust or wishes. It was in the goodness of one's heart. Years passed, and Geppetto grew older, but his heart remained full of joy. He often sat by the window, but watching his son work or play with the village children. He knew that love had turned a puppet into a boy, and a lonely craftsman into a happy father. Pinocchio sometimes carved small wooden figures and gave them to children who didn't have toys. He told them stories about a wooden puppet who once dreamed of being real. The children laughed, not knowing that the story was his own. Every evening, father and son would sit together by the fire, the workshop glowing softly in the twilight. And so, in that quiet village, surrounded by the scent of pine and the warmth of love, they lived happily ever after. Pinocchio's journey had begun with lies and mistakes, but it ended with truth and love. He had learned that to be real is not about what you are made of, wood or flesh, but about what you carry in your heart. And every night, as the stars sparkled above, the blue fairy watched over them, smiling at the boy who had once been a puppet and the man who had wished upon a star. The end.